Hey guys, Stealth here. Today in World of Warships, a replay that was uploaded to wowreplays.com from Siegfried Wolf. He's here operating the Kutuzov. Kutuzov being the Tier 8 premium Russian cruiser, and compared to the other Russian cruisers that are in the game, this ship is downright agile. It has a far better rudder shift time as well as its smaller turning radius than the other Russian cruisers. It does have the same type of Russian guns that you can find on the other cruisers, and these are the fast-firing 12 guns that are a menace to destroyers and can put many things on fire. That's exactly what it's going to be doing. The Kutuzov, as one of the few ships that have it, has a smoke generator, and this is something that can make you almost play as a small-ish, or as a very sizable destroyer. It's not a particularly good smokescreen. The smokescreen generator doesn't run for too long, but you're going to be seeing Siegfried making very good use with that smokescreen in order to cover himself up when he's either being attacked or when he needs to get a little closer to the enemy without being detected. He's operating with another ally here. We have Terraziel in the Tirpitz, and together they're probably out to make some more credits, considering that the Tirpitz is also a premium ship. He's heading to the east side of Two Brothers with another destroyer up ahead. We can see there's a Fubuki over here who seems to be going back and possibly going towards the middle. And there's a Mayhan up ahead scouting forward and potentially getting some torpedo hits off. Now, he spotted one cruiser pushing up fast and far, and it's a Shores. He's armed himself with AP rounds in order to engage the Shores with the most effectivity. And you can see that the Shores is simply not that heavily armored. At 12 clicks, he can do an immense amount of damage to the Shores, simply because it is very, very much broadside on. And even gets one Citadel hit, getting a nice amount of damage there. Next salvo goes in, unfortunately missing as the Shores is changing course. Now he's looking for the next salvo, trying to get yet another broadside, but the Shores simply does not seem to want to turn, and since he still has AP loaded, he needs for the Shores to make a turn. Shores still continuing to bow on, but just takes all of the AP and shrugs it off right from the bow. That's exactly when the Shores starts turning again. It has to. There's torpedoes in the water coming pretty much right for him. Another salvo goes in. Combined with the HE from the Cleveland in front, it does a decent amount of damage and puts him on fire. He continues to fire AP at the Shores. There is three more ships behind him. There's two Tirpitzes and a Cleveland. But so far, the Shores is so far forward and so far out of its, I'd say, natural position that it has to go. And there we go. Now he's a bit distracted by that engagement, and this means that he does run into the island. But fortunately, most people will engage the ship that is closest to them. And the same goes for this Tirpitz. He doesn't go for Siegfried in the Kutuzov. Instead, he goes for the Cleveland, who's closer to him, and who is also broadside. Cleveland fortunately does not seem to take much damage from the Tirpitz, if any at all. And in the meanwhile, he's firing his HE once again at long range. Now he's firing HE at 18 clicks out. That's a really, really good engagement range. And at that range, with your pretty decently agile ship, you might be able to dodge most of the fire coming in from those battleships. He's trying to put the ship on fire, and there is a few others, so he's looking around with both of those Tirpitzes currently seeming to be maneuvering towards islands. He has to start planning ahead in order to look at what other targets there might be to engage. Knight Rider 93 is taking it on, and it seems that he put the other Tirpitz on fire, the tanker hero that we're seeing over slightly to the east. He tries to get a fire, no fires yet, but he does do a nice amount of HE damage and burns off some, pretty much, I think, AA cannons. Didn't quite see the pop-up there. With the ship behind the island, he switches fire to the Cleveland in order to get a few more damaging hits on there. Cleveland not very heavily armored, pretty agile though. And again, he's looking for the fire, trying to put that ship on fire in order to get the damage over time to ramp up. Cleveland unfortunately detects the torpedoes way too late, starts to turn in, takes one, takes another, goes down to 3,700 hit points, 3,300, fixes the flooding. Another salvo comes in from the Kuchezov, puts him on fire, and that's pretty much the last nail in the coffin of the Cleveland. He's going to either burn up or get destroyed by the HEs. And there we go. Second kill. Now, the carrier has taken an interest in this site, and specifically in his platoon mate, Terraziel. So he pops his AA defensive fire in order to make those dive bombers panic, and hopefully giving Terraziel some more chances of avoiding getting hit by the dive bombers. Because, hey, you don't want to get put on fire by those things. Takes out a nice amount of aircraft. Unfortunately, at 6.4 clicks, they are going out of range. So Terraziel is by himself for this one. He once again fires at the Knight Rider 93 player up ahead. Does not seem to do any damage because he had AP loaded, still from the engagement with the Cleveland. Switches to HE, once again looks for the fire damage. Can you put this guy on fire? There it is. Ship is now burning. So he switches his fire to the other Tirpitz, who's broadside on. And with most battleships, fixing a fire or using the repair party when they have two fires going, keeping one fire up is actually a decent idea. It makes it so that the player takes damage over time, but doesn't put out the fire most of the time. He puts the Tirpitz on fire again. It seems that the repair party was still active, but the Tirpitz has another problem. It has wandered inside torpedo range for the Kuchezov. Now, virtually all Russian cruisers have a range of 4 kilometers on their torpedoes. The Kuchezov is the odd duck here. It has an 8 kilometer range on the torpedoes. And he just continues to sail on pretty straightforward, eating a few torpedoes. The fire damage has sunk the other ship. The other Tirpitz is going down. The Cyclone at this stage is hitting, so the Cyclone is going to make it more difficult for ships to engage each other. Knight Rider 93 unfortunately managed to take out his buddy in the Tirpitz, so he is all by himself with a few destroyers. But the Fubuki has engaged and killed off the other Tirpitz. So it's just him and a few allies on this flank, as well as a few torpedo bombers. But it seems that they were more interested in going for a destroyer rather than the Kuchezov. Which, on the one hand, makes sense, because the Kuchezov is more than capable of defending itself against airstrikes. At the same time, I'd say, are you sure you want to go for a destroyer? Because it's such an agile target. But hey, look at what's up ahead. And I don't mean over there. It's on the other end. There's the carrier. And hopefully the carrier is still going to be in visual range for at least a while. But it seems that Siegfried hasn't actually spotted it. There we go, he's turning the guns. And his last salvo was going for the North Carolina. But I'm not sure if the Carolina was going fast enough to get hit by that. So instead, going for the Shokaku. If you can put his flight deck on fire, you can put the ship out of commission. And hopefully not get any more airstrikes coming for you. Because he only has one use of his AA defensive fire left. So he's not really looking for another engagement with aircraft. Puts him on fire, or attempts to. The Shokaku launches a few new dive bomber squadrons. And once again, the dive bomber squadrons seem to be going for the Mayhan up ahead. Mayhan, not quite capable of defending himself. The Shokaku is set on fire. But if you're looking at the damage counter on the top right of the screen, you can see that it's quickly stopped ticking up. That means that the Shokaku has put out the fire. The good news and bad. The good news, it can be put on fire again and will not be able to fix it. The bad news, in this time that it is not on fire, it can still launch aircraft. And that's exactly what it's doing. Sending up 2 flights of torpedo bombers. Now these torpedo bombers are getting intercepted by another flight of Japanese fighters. Siegfried is also doing a bit of damage to it, and once again the aircraft carrier seems to be more upset with the destroyer than with Siegfried in the Kuchezov. He's recommending that the destroyer waits a little bit in order for him to allow to provide AA cover, and the amount of AA damage that he's doing is impressive. He's already shot down 15 aircraft so far and still counting. There's number 16. Now, what this aircraft carrier did that was slightly unusual, or at least showed me that he might not be that good of a player, or he was just so much panicked that he wanted to get this destroyer dead ASAP, is that he dropped all of his torpedoes onto the destroyer in one flight. He didn't cross-drop, and without cross-dropping it's going to be pretty easy for a destroyer to dodge the torpedoes. Their ships are so agile that they can just avoid most of those hits, if not all of them. The Cyclone, though, is making it impossible for them to see the ship at the moment. So they have to wait in order to get closer, get visual range, as the Kutuzov does not have radar. It's going to have to rely on visual range spotting. Dive Bomber Squadron comes in, takes a lot of fire from the Kutuzov. It's not even using a defensive fire ability. That's just the amount of AA that this ship has. You can do a lot of damage with it, and most of these aircraft are once again sent home with either a few aircraft of their flight missing or with the entire flight shot down. Shokaku gets hit, loses its rudder. It's not yet burning though. He's trying to get a couple of AP hits in order to do a bit of damage. Unfortunately, nothing really goes into the Citadel. So time to switch back to HE damage. That's where you can rack up the real damage on carriers. Look at that, 7,200. Once again though, he is going to eat some torpedoes. He's turning to avoid. He takes one on the bow, and the last one narrowly passes right next to his rudder. Fortunately, the bow took up most of the damage, and he did not flood, and that's going to be very, very significant. Because that is not the only squadron that's going for him. The aircraft carrier is now on fire, but he's more concerned about this new torpedo flight coming in. He slows down, probably going to full reverse, dodges the torpedo, or at least that was the goal. Takes a bit of damage from the torpedoes, but he still has his repair consumable ready, and with that he is able to put out the flooding. New target has already presented itself, Warspite. The Warspite is in range, and the Warspite is of course not particularly fast. It cannot really do that much to get out of range from the torpedoes, and he is in range, but with the smoke screen going up, he should be safe for firing the guns at least for a while, letting the Warspite get in range a bit more, and hoping that the Warspite is going to take that bait. If he does, he's an even easier target for the torpedoes, as the torpedoes can be fired at point blank range. And that's not the only problem that the Warspite has. Warspite's also taking torpedoes from the Mayhem there. The Mayhem can put quite a few torpedoes in the water. The Warspite is put on fire. Does not do anything to put out the fire, it seems. He takes a torpedo hit, and I think that is when he actually uses his repair ability. Siegfried is looking to see if he can get a torpedo fix on it. And by the looks of it, the Warspite was able to take care of the destroyer coming for him, possibly with secondary guns. But he has a problem. He can no longer put out the fire. And the fire is going to really ramp up. You can see the counter ticking up pretty fast on the top right side of the screen. And the Warspite seems to be burning in two separate locations. Now a Cyclone combined with a smoke screen means that you have to get right up into each other's face in order to actually see each other. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. He's getting ready to engage the Warspite at ultimately short range. We're talking 3 to 4 clicks out. That's usually not where you want to be with a cruiser. But this cruiser has torpedoes, and look at that, 2.6 kilometer range. He gets Witherer. He manages to put the ship on fire again. This time with a secondary gun, no less. He tries to avoid fire from the Warspite and looks for another target as the Warspite eats 4 torpedoes, but one's enough. And here's the next target. Bismarck has showed up. Bismarck really low hit points. He already has Kraken, but a 6 kill would be nice. A little bit of damage going in, but the Tirpitz instead gets the kill. So far though, he already has Witherer, High Caliber, Kraken Unleashed, and I believe First Blood as well. There we go. So, one ship left. You can still see some aircraft flying over, trying to find their aircraft carrier, which has slipped beneath the waves. no longer there as a landing platform. So these poor guys are going to have to bail sooner or later. That's when he takes fire. There's the Benson, the last surviving ship on the enemy team. He's firing from the safety of his smokescreen, but with the Cyclone, which is currently wearing off, it's still active, and presumably the Benson is also hindered by his own smokescreen. Now the Benson is, as a destroyer, an easy target for a Kuchizov. Kuchizov can fire fast, it has laser fast guns, very, very accurate, and it can fire those things pretty damn quickly as well. Reload is really good. So he tries to go for the Benson, and unfortunately does not quite seem to get it as someone else gets the kill. And there it is. So let's have a look at the post-battle results screen. Well, I suppose you could say that Siegfried Wolf was pretty well rewarded for his efforts. 962,000 credits, 8,328 XP, 2,000 free XP, a whole bunch of medals, only 2 Citadel hits, but look at the fire. 20 fires started. 2 incidents of flooding thanks to the torpedoes, but the amount of fire damage is going to be very, very significant. Team score puts him squarely on the top of the list. 2,700 base experience right there. The next player on the list is the North Carolina, and I was expecting the Mayhan to do a bit better, but apparently it may not have gotten as many torpedo hits as I thought it did. Detailed reports shows you exactly how much fire there was done to the enemy. 60,615 points of fire damage was inflicted. Even a few secondary battery hits managed to hit targets, and this was probably during the engagement with the Warspite, where the range was so small and the battle was happening at such a close range that the secondary batteries opened up as well and even managed to hit some of the enemy. And somehow the batteries fired 26 rounds and only hit 9. So thank you, secondary batteries. At least you tried. Torpedo damage 25,000 and main battery damage 91,000. Note the 20,000 points of armor piercing shells. This is significant. If you don't use the armor piercing, it can reduce the amount of damage that you do overall. As far as the credits and XP window, 864,000. You can see that he has a few modifiers on there. I don't know exactly what they are. I imagine that it might be part of either a flag combination or the premium state of the ship. But overall, 864,000. That's a very, very good result. As for the XP, he does have some modifiers on there. He has the Type 10 Camo, which is the camouflage that you get with the Kuchizov. It's one of those premium features that the ship has. Equal Speed Charlie London gives you another 50% XP. And even a monthly event of 5% XP gives you 204 additional XP. Commander XP was even higher at 10,000, and with that I'd say that this was a very, very successful match, not just for credit making, but also for training up your commander and boosting those additional skill points. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Siegfried, thank you for uploading your replay. Definitely can learn quite a bit from this about positioning and about pushing. And it was just a joy to watch. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more World of Warships.